This video, we're going to take a look at why Oregon struggled to stop Dillon Johnson and the Washington Huskies run game during the last ever Pac-12 championship game. For us Oregon fans, this isn't going to be a fun video at all. All right, so when I went back and looked at the game, there's three things that really stood out to me about why Oregon struggled to stop the run. And the first is that every time Washington ran a play where the offensive line was pulling, Oregon really struggled to stop those particular run plays. Whether it be counter, pin, pull, outside zone, the crack toss sweep, anytime those offensive linemen were pulling around, Oregon really struggled to stop those plays. And I'm going to go ahead and show you starting off, and we're going to take a look at a few plays just so you guys can get an example of that. And I'm not going to go through every play, every run play of the game of those because there's a lot of them, a lot of counters we can go through. But I just want to give you a few so that you can get a good idea as to why Washington just kept running it. As the game wore on, they kept running a lot of counters in particular. So this is the second play of the game. And we've got what's happening for Washington is we've got a clear out route with McMillan running a speed out. That's the RPO. Later in the game, Penix will actually throw that speed out on the backside of counter to McMillan. We're going to have Westover come and sift through Borlas and work up to Williams right here. We're going to go ahead and have our offensive lineman, Parker Brailsford, who's the center, he's going to work back here to the three technique. We've got Julius Bulow, hopefully I'm saying that name right, Bulow. He is stepping down to take on the nose. We've got Rosengarten, who's going to step down and work and block Jacobs. He's going to leave Bossa and he's going to leave Birch for the pulling players. Left guard, Nate Kalepo is going to pull, and he is going to take Birch, and he's actually going to seal Birch. And then Boss is going to work to the outside, and Troy Fountainow, he's going to pull and seal off Bossa as well. Unfortunately for Oregon, Oregon is in an overlook. There's three receivers to the top, so Oregon's in an over to the strength. And where Washington is running the counter, there's a nice big hole right here already and kind of in the defense. But there's some things that could have been done to kind of negate that big of a play. And so let's just go ahead and run it so you guys can see. And then we'll talk about it when I go back. Right there, you see it's a nice 9-yard gain. This is the second play of the game, and it's kind of setting up, okay, if you're the coach staff, you're like, okay, that's good. All right, we did a good job there. Maybe we go back to counter out of a different formation at a later date. And again, think about even more, maybe even a third of all of Dillon Johnson's runs were counters. And I think I only saw Oregon really stop it once, or for like 1 yard. Every other time was at least about 5 yards of a gain. So let's go through it. I'm going to go ahead and stop and start this one so I can talk about it. When we get the down block, what I really would have liked to have seen Amave do is the minute he sees that his guy in front of him, the left guard's pulling, he needs to realize he's got to stay square, and he's got to realize either something's coming back towards him, right? Because we're getting that from the center, Brailsford, but he can't turn his body. He's got to stay square, and if he feels like he's got to stay square, boom, punch the arm out. That's why sometimes you'll see guys who are being red and they come up and then they squat and they've got their arm up. It's because they're expecting somebody to come back. When you're a defensive line coach and you're coaching your defensive line, that's something you work on. You're going to have them work on taking down blocks. Someone's pulling, you're going to have someone replace, bang, right? I would have liked him to stay square, and he doesn't necessarily do that. Taimani, he fights across the face of the right guard, Bulow, but the problem is that Amave is going to get kind of washed down by Brailsford, and then that's where the hole is going to open up. Birch, I would have liked Birch to kind of wrong arm, dip and rip his arm through as he's taking on Kalepo. He really doesn't. He kind of throws his shoulder into him. Doesn't really lose any ground, but Bossa gets blocked. But the hole where Dillon Johnson's going to hit is right up inside, and I think it's going to be because Amave, unfortunately, gets kind of blocked out. See, right here, we get the kick out. We've got the fight across by Taimani, and there's where your hole is right here. And that's where Dillon Johnson is going to take and cut back, basically, right in there. So I would have liked to have seen pulling man, bam, step into it. Fight that pressure, right? By staying square like this, it's a lot harder to get pushed down. That way, then you can fight across In the end, Amave is the one that basically makes the tackle, but it's so far downfield when he finally hits him that it's a big gain. All right. So now let's go to the next version of this play. And this, I've gone further into the game. Remember, I'm not going to show them all, but this is another big run. And here we go. We're going to start off with what looks like a wing with Polk. He's going to go out, but this is a counter. And this is right after Oregon's first score of the third quarter. We're going to go ahead and have Washington, this is their first drive, and it's going to be a big gain for Washington. And one of the things that I'm looking at as I look at the Ducks is we're kind of in a formation alignment where we're inside of Rosengarten. So it's going to be an easy block because, again, we're pulling Kalepo, we're pulling Rosengarten. I'm not pulling Rosengarten. We're pulling Fountain now across. So we're going to get down, down, down. Now, who's going to step over? Well, it's going to be Bossa, who's going to come up. He's going to be the one who has to take on Kalepo. Johnson's going to come down as well. He's going to get caught in the block of Kalepo. And then that leaves Fountain now able to basically lead up the hole. Excuse me, changed the wrong color there. He's going to follow. He's going to see the butt of Kalepo and then go up the hole, lead blocking, and Johnson's going to hit up inside following him. So let's go ahead, run the play. And you can see, bang, right there. Nice block, basically a twofer, and it's a nice 17-yard gain. So we'll go back again. And when I say this, it just seemed like Oregon struggled to fight across. Look at the offensive lineman. A little bit better. See, they're doing a little bit better fighting across, right? Borlas is doing a better job fighting across. He's not really letting himself get turned. Amave, again, getting turned a little bit, right? Would like to see the fight across. The problem is you've got a backer who's trying to take on an offensive lineman along with a safety. And they just aren't able to get there, and you get the big man out leading, and it's a nice big gain. Okay? So I'm a little nervous about this alignment because of that. I think that might have been, I'm not sure on the alignment, so that's one thing I'm not going to try and be critical of. It's just, it seemed like Washington just was able to run to spots, especially on the counter, where they knew Oregon was not going to be necessarily the strongest to stop those run plays. Now, later in the game, let's go ahead and we'll run this play one more time. At one point, Oregon finally does align to where the Huskies are going to run a counter. Let's go ahead and take a look back, take a look at that play. Here we go, fourth quarter. Washington has regained the lead, so we've got to get a stop. If you're the Ducks, you've got to get a stop here. This is this long drive that basically takes up most of the fourth quarter, and they're going to get a touchdown out of it. And here you can see that the Ducks are basically this would be the equivalent of an underlook. We call it an underlook because we've got three receivers up top, field that way. A lot of defenses call their strength to the field. They would call their strength, I'm going to use this for our strength to the field. Okay? This would be where the strength was. So that's why it's an underlook. What we're then going to have happen is it's going to be counter, and it's the same guys pulling. So I know that it looks like it's the same guys, and therefore it's easy to know. One of the things that may be a tip-off is the alignment of the Washington offensive lineman. Maybe. I don't know that it is. We're going to go, though, what we're going to have happen here is we're then going to have block here, block here, block here, and they're trying to work back here. We're going to have a kick out to lead across, and then Dillon Johnson is going to hit up inside. So let's go ahead and run the play so you guys can see. Get out to our backer, and it's still a good gain. Even though it doesn't necessarily get as many yards as before, it's still a good gain. So let's take a look again at what's happening. This time we're getting washed down. We're not really fighting that hard. And so because we're getting washed down, we're going to get a nice, I don't mind right here, the engagement by number 32. That's Winston. He actually does a fairly good job Notice how he's taking on the block. He's stepping in. He's going to engage, right? He's squeezing down. He's going to engage. Again, you can wrong arm or you can squeeze down. And because he's squeezing down, now he's allowing someone to step up. But again, we've kind of gotten washed down, and that's where the problem is, and that's where the hole is. So let's go back again, going through it. We just kind of get the wash down, and then once the wash down occurs, now we're chasing, and that's why it's a big game. That's why I say that Oregon struggled. There were just times where every time there was a down block, it seemed like someone on Oregon's defensive front was getting washed down. We kind of get a swim, get through, but the problem is because everybody's getting washed down, the block still occurs. He's unable to get over there. Amave is unable to get through. If we've been able to hold our line right here, I think we have a pretty good chance at his stuff on the play. It's a good miss over there with Rosengarten coming out trying to make the block. Way to make him miss right there by Bossa. He just doesn't get a full chance at making the block or making the tackle, and that's why. Okay, so I'm going to include an example from Oregon stopping it. The one time that I saw Oregon did stop the counter, and I'm going to give credit right here. Okay, I'm going to give credit to Tuioti. Tatum Tuioti, number 44. I think he does the best job out of the Ducks on taking on the pullers. And then we're going to take a look at how Washington stuffed that. And so we're going to take a look at different reps and give you guys an idea. Again, so we get the shift over. Maybe there's something that started to be given away by Washington. But again, we've got our look. Bam. He takes on both blockers, and that allows Jacobs to scrape over and make the tackle. So let's go ahead, run the play again. We get a good stuff block. Notice how we've got everything. Nobody's getting washed down the line. Now, Dillon Johnson has nowhere to go, and it's a 1-yard gain, and that's a good stop. So let's go back again. I want you to watch the defensive line. Watch Tuioti. Bang. He basically takes on both blocks, takes on Kalepo and Fatanau, and there is the one stop that Oregon had against the counter. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at how Washington played counter. And this is early on. This is 10-0 game. This is the second drive for the Ducks. We're going to run counter. Oregon has done great all year running counter. What I want to highlight is I'm going to take a look and point out number 8, Trice for Washington. I want you to watch how he takes on the pulling lineman. Okay, we get a 1. I'm going to stop right here. No, actually, I'm going to run the play. Sorry. I'll go back in a second. Okay. Notice Oregon only gets 1 yard, but it's up inside that they only get 1 yard instead of making them bounce. So I'm going to go back. I want you to watch Trice, and I also want you to watch the defensive tackle right here. Now remember, you might say, well, hey, the couple times it was 2 where there wasn't as many defensive linemen or linebackers. Remember, we had them correctly aligned with a strength of defensive linemen, and they still got about 5 to 6 yards. I just want you to watch the difference in how the defensive line and Trice play this. Notice that Trice tries to come across, and he is trying to wrong arm. He's trying to get wrong arm. And so then what happens is both pulling linemen get caught up. Okay, and I'm just going to rewind slightly. Notice both pulling linemen get caught up. Defensive tackle to the inside. And I don't see his number, and I don't know all the Washington players' names, so sorry about that, guys. Notice he is holding his own against a double team. He's kind of splitting it. So there's 4 offensive linemen caught up right here. Well, it's a tight end. Sorry, it's Ferguson that's come across. All right, so our pulling tackle, right, Stephen Jones. Ferguson gets caught up. Now we've got 4 Oregon players getting caught up on 2 Washington players. Look who's free to stop the inside and free to stop the outside. And that's why there's no gain on the play. So let's go back again. I know I kind of start slow. Let's go back. Watch the play again. Notice stuff. There's no place for Bucky to go. Bucky's got no place to go on the play. And that's part of the problem. And that's the difference is Washington was able to kind of hold their ground, do the techniques that prevented Oregon from getting any real gaps. There's only a couple times that it happened. Dillon Johnson, remember, he outgained Oregon all by themselves. So the counter run play was a big part of why Dillon Johnson got going. But I want to also go, I'm going to run this play, and then let's go to the next thing. And so the second and third thing that I noticed for the Ducks against the run game, they really go hand in hand. And I want to just emphasize the reason I spent so much time talking about the issues against counter is because Washington figured out, hey, Oregon's struggling to stop the counter. And 5 yards a pop every time you run that play, well, no doubt you're going to keep going back to it. But the second and third thing that I did see was that second, Oregon would continually, it seemed, at times it looked like they were misaligning, or their alignment was causing situations where there would be big gaps in the defensive front that could cause problems. And then two, there were times where the players themselves would get ahead of the running back or beat the running back to a spot, but leave the backside open for that cutback. And this pin pull outside zone in the first quarter on the first touchdown drive is kind of a good example of both things. So I'm just going to run the play. It's a pin pull. We're going to get a pull by Rosengarten, a pull by Coleppo. Everybody else is down blocking. It's outside zone. And Dillon Johnson's going to hit the cutback, and we'll go right here and stop. Oregon is adjusting into an overlook because we have an attached tight end. That is the strength to a defense. If he had been wide out, a split, then the strength would have been to the field. And what we're going to have happen is Rosengarten, he's going to pull around. We're going to have Coleppo pull around. He's going to get Williams. We're going to have a down block right here, down like this, and then climb up to Jacobs, reach, seal, cut off. And then I want you to look at how many Oregon players are really aligned in certain spots. So we've got 4 players right here, 4 on 3, and then we've really got 4 defenders right here with the backer. And now notice we've got a lot of space. And that shouldn't be that big of a problem, but you have to remember they're running a backside bubble screen. And so when the time comes, Vasa's going to go ahead and he's going to slide right down the line, right there. He's going to initially step out. He's not going to step with the run. And so when that time comes, he's going to be behind and chasing out of position. So let's just go ahead and run the play. And as you can see, Jacobs actually does do a fairly good job stepping up and engaging with the blocker, with Julius. But then he allows himself to get kind of pushed, but he's trying to follow Dillon Johnson. So he jumps to the outside. And then once he does, there's your hole. So let's go back again to the end zone view start of it. And we'll just run it. And I'm going to stop it right here. There's your hole. Outside zone is, yes, everybody's running to the outside, but it's always designed to have a nice cutback. And you can see that Dillon Johnson takes advantage of it. And it's a good job by Washington. So I don't know if the alignment was correct here. I don't know if Williams is supposed to be where he is. We've got Jackson playing there. We have 4 guys, really over 2 to 3 players. There just seems to be a miscommunication. I don't know if you're supposed to have that many defenders over the receivers. You're so worried about the receivers that you got 4 on 3, but this is a big gain. This is a 17-yard gain, and it's kind of indicative of the whole night. And let's go right now to this play. And this is, you know what? This is the first touchdown. It's a toss sweep. The offensive linemen, Fatnau and Coleppo, they don't even know who to block because there's no one there. And what you're going to see on the end zone view is, once again, this is an overload formation. We got Jacobs. We got 2 guys out here. If you're Duck fans, you got 2 guys out here. Notice how many Washington players we got over here. We got 4. Everybody's taking an inside gap, but we've only got 3 guys against 4. So what we're going to have happen on this play from Washington is everybody step down, touch down, because they're in man and they're so worried about Odunze. Manning's going to go with Odunze, take himself out, pull around, and there is nobody there. Right? So let's run the play. Nobody there. In fact, I even made the block wrong, but that just shows you how such good coaching on it. But Oregon doesn't have enough guys to the play side. We are missing at least one. It's got to be even at least. But there's not enough communication. We're out leveraged, and that's just too easy. As you can see, bam, everybody's down. Around, touchdown. And then let's go to the last run play. It's another crack toss sweep. And this time Oregon is a lot better aligned to it. But remember, what's the third thing that I said? Over pursuit, you're going to get yourself out of the lanes. You're going to leave a cutback lane. So let's just run the play. I'm not even going to draw it up. We know what happens. Down, down. Everybody cuts, gets ahead. He's just going to cut off the lineman blocks. Because remember, the linemen, they're going to pull around. But if you're ahead of them, they're just going to kick out. Okay? On outside zone, the read for the running back is he's looking, and if the head of the defender is outside the lead blocker, outside the tight end or the lineman that's pulling and leading, then on a pin pull or a toss crack sweep, then he's going to cut inside of it. So let's run it again, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Look at that. We've got everybody chasing, but notice where all the heads at. All to the outside. All to the outside. No one's inside. That's where Dillon Johnson makes his cut, and that's ball game. Okay? I kind of want to focus on these three things because, again, they just hurt Oregon at times in the game when Oregon needed a stop. As I mentioned early on, Washington also has backside RPOs on them, on those plays. And Penix took advantage of it. So it wasn't just that the times that Dillon Johnson ran the ball out of that counter play. That counter play was called multiple times where it was thrown out as well. Or outside zone with the pin pull and thrown back to the backside. In fact, on that first drive where it was almost intercepted, they actually had a good screen set up that if Penix had thrown it the wrong way, it might have gone for a touchdown. When I talk about this, this is why I wanted to address the run game for the Ducks was it hurt. And if you're Texas, I think your up front are a little bit better in terms of that. I was always worried that Oregon's defensive front needed to handle better what Washington was doing. It's going to be a real good game in the playoff, but hopefully Oregon fans, this was kind of gives you an idea of what happened in the conference championship game. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like. Let me know your thoughts down below. Get ready for the Fiesta Bowl. We got Liberty. I think we can play Liberty and take it to them. I think it'll be an interesting game. I think that you got to get this fixed because I know that Liberty runs a lot of stuff, and you've got to be disciplined on what you're reading. I do want to give a shout out as well to our booster members. They're the ones who are supporting this channel that get to have their names in the videos. If you wish to have your name in a video just like this, make sure to hit the link down below and join at the booster member or above. On the end screen, there will be another recommended video. Most likely it will be a breakdown video. You guys have a great rest of the day.